This is On the Porch, RVA, where every episode features observers discussing life. We agree and we disagree. So we invite you to take part as we discuss current events and no telling what else. Whether the conversation is bad drivers, politics, or even earthworms, everyone has an opinion and is welcome to express it. Life is an adventure to be shared and celebrated here on the porch.
We are on the porch at Liz's place. And if you've been following or seeing my news feed in Facebook at all, I know you've been seeing Sanctuary Rescue.
Oh, good. You're a good sharer. Thank you.
Not so much with Liz's place, because that's new to me.
Yeah.
But Sanctuary Rescue.
We'll get you on the team. Don't worry about it.
I want to introduce you to Adri.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to want you to introduce yourself to some degree,
okay.
But let me go with what I know so far.
All right.
Okay. You are incredibly busy.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a huge compassion for the pups, not just puppies, but the whole community. You're going to be stunned when you find out the community
there's a lot of
this
pressure.
woman has created. But I believe you have a family.
I do. They don't see me very often, but yes, I have a family.
Was your husband in the calendar?
He was.
Okay, let's start
Don't
there.
be jealous, ladies. He was Mr. December.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What would you like to add to the description?
Of the calendar of Mr. December or of Adri?
All of it.
Okay.
All of it.
Gosh, you got to narrow me down because I can talk all day. So you got to give me some bullet points, or I'm gonna probably run way too far left field.
Well, I do have some questions that are my basic.
Okay.
But
just kind of explain. Sanctuary Rescue was a complete accident. I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was telling Tracy earlier, I was a court reporter. I worked in the court system, and I had two young kids that were busy. Happened to adopt a dog from a rescue, and that rescue was really good at recruiting its adopters to help out. And so I did that for a little while, and the next thing I know, I was doing a little bit of stuff on my own as an independent rescuer. Again, didn't know what I was doing. And after a while, we just kind of got more and more attention and more support. And I just said, you know what? Let's just go with it. Let's ride this wave and see where the wave takes us. This was never a plan. This was never when I grow up, I want to be a dog rescuer. Because again, I had no idea what I was doing for many of those years. But the wave was mighty. And here we are 13 years later. Just last year April. So what is that, 9 months ago, 10 months ago now? We had the opportunity to take over a space in far western Chesterfield County.
And it is a nice space. It is a big space, and there is a lot that goes on in this space.
Yes.
I am amazed. And you kind of anticipated one of the questions I had to ask.
Yeah, psychic.
Because my question was, how grown were you when you decided what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I only in the last 5 years have decided that. Mm-hmm. I never, if you asked me when I was a kid, I was going to either be the president of the United States, or I was going to be a comedian. A stand-up comedian. Those were my only two aspirations ever. And then when I became a real adult, when I was in college and it was time to declare a major, I didn't know. I ended up majoring in French, like how useless, right? But it was my best subject, so I said, well, that seems easy enough. And then I got married, had 2 kids, was a stay-at-home mom, and thought, well, once the kids get in school, I need to do something. I don't want to be a French teacher. So I ended up going to night school for many years. I'd stay home with the kids during the day, and I went to court reporting school at night. Not because I ever dreamed of that or thought it was a real, whoever thinks they want to be a court reporter, but I had a friend doing it, and she said it's really great flexibility in schedule. Mm-hmm. And so I started when my daughter was a year old, and again, I'd stay home every day, and when my husband would come home from work, I had night classes 5 days a week, and I graduated about the time she entered kindergarten. So it worked out perfectly. I'd get them on the bus, go to court during the day, get them off the bus. And
not glamorous.
It wasn't.
It worked.
But I have many friends that love it. I was not a good court reporter, so I was not good at it. And when you're not great at your job, especially a job so important and technical, it's scary and a lot of anxiety, and you're dealing with people that like to sue people and judges that are very, authoritative. And so I just didn't really enjoy it, and I was always stressed out. But during that time, it was helpful when we started rescuing dogs, because I could do the same thing. I could rescue dogs in the evening, and finally, it got to the point where I couldn't juggle it all. I couldn't juggle because my kids were busy, baseball, cheerleading, out of town, all-stars. Mm-hmm. I couldn't juggle it all anymore, and I just took a leap of faith and quit court reporting and became a full-time dog rescuer. And it's only been, like I said, maybe in the last 5-ish years that I thought, well, you know what? I'm good at this. Maybe, who would have guessed? But maybe this is what I'm supposed to do.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
The anxiety that came with it not being a complete fit.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm guessing that this is a pretty good fit now.
Right.
What's your biggest anxiety?
Paying the bills. That's my biggest anxiety, is paying the bills. We just hired our first full-time employee last May, and we're about to hire a second.
But I'm thinking you're talking about vet bills.
All bills are stressful and give me anxiety, but it's been since we've taken on full-time employees that I literally have panic attacks, because I feel like their whole life is on my shoulders. Like I'm, their mortgage payment is dependent, I really gotta make this work and be smart with money and write this grant really well and that kind of thing. So, I mean, there's a lot of anxiety, and I don't know how serious we want to make this podcast, but of course there's a lot of stress, because this is literally a life or death job for animals. Yeah. So that absolutely is a heavy, serious matter. But I feel like not just me, I hate to be I and me, because we have a really strong team here, but I feel like we have done a good job compartmentalizing that and doing the best we can and celebrating our victories and not letting the failures bring us down too much. But that absolutely, I mean, I have to walk into shelters and see dogs and say, okay, we can take that one and that one. Yeah. And everybody else has to stay. But we know, I'm visiting the shelter because I know they're over capacity, and I know they're going to have to make decisions on who gets euthanized. And so we take the 2 and help the 2 we can, and then we go home and worry about the ones that we had to leave behind.
Producer John used to work at the animal shelter.
Oh, which one? Locally or?
In Richmond.
Okay.
And
so he has an understanding.
I would go down there, and we would help the critters socialize.
Right. Yeah. That's important.
Looking at what we could do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because no matter what you're doing, you're always looking at what can I do to make things better. And some of the rescues that I have seen that I've seen you describe how things came about.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing. There has to be a really, really good network of the people who are contacting you,
Right.
and the networking with the shelters. And looking at your website, I was surprised to discover that this facility is not just for the people who are fostering.
Right.
It's not just for the people who have their pets and they're coming to different events or coming to use the dog wash or coming to get the vaccinations.
Right, right.
But it's also supporting for the people who work in the shelters.
So how Liz's Place came about was, I tell the story that when you start a tiny little dog rescue in your garage, the dream is always one day will be a big girl rescue. One day we'll be a big girl rescue and we'll have a facility and we'll have a kennel and we won't have to beg people to foster. And we were getting to the point where we had grown so rapidly that it was like, well, maybe we're almost there. Maybe we do have to start looking into finding a kennel facility. But when we really took a step back and just really seriously considered that, we thought almost like that would be going backwards for us. And this is not to say that there's anything wrong with kennel facilities. There's so many different ways to rescue dogs, and I have, as long as it's, for the best of animals, I don't care how you do it. But for us, we had spent so many years with dogs in foster homes, and I think that's the gold standard. I think that living in a home with a family and learning how to trust,
be a family member.
Right. Trust again, get used to comforts, that sort of thing. And so we said, well, if we're not going to keep dogs on site, what can we do to make the biggest impact? And this is still new. We're still trying to figure that out. We do have several programs where I feel like we are making an impact. But we're always open for suggestions. We don't feel like this is solidified or cemented to be exactly what it's always going to be. If somebody has an idea or we're able to tweak a program to help more people, that's really all we want to do. And we are absolutely wanting to help people as much as their pets. Absolutely. Because you can't just help the animals.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you something that I know gets people excited. That's the puppy yoga.
That's right. We are sold out 3 months in advance. Can you believe that?
And do they sign a waiver that they're not going to get upset with you when a puppy pees on them?
Actually,
or is this supposed to be good luck?
Actually, Kristen, our programs manager, wrote up a very official, professional waiver. And one day she wasn't here and I didn't know how to find it. So I typed one up and it was very basic and like, hey, look, I'm signing that I understand puppies pee and poop and might even nibble and they're going to carry my phone away in their mouth. And I'm just here to have a good time. And I promise not to sue you. Like that was,
it's,
I don't know how much that it's going to stand up in court, but I was
but
honest about it. Yeah.
Okay. So let me get to some of my questions.
Okay.
See,
I told you. You gotta narrow it in.
The first one is, what book do you wish you could read again for the first time, not including the scriptures or Orwell's Animal Farm?
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
I'm guessing you don't read a lot, but just the experience of
what is that supposed to mean?
Going to something for the first time.
Do I look like somebody? What, is that an insult? I'm guessing you don't read
Unless
much.
You've got an audiobook in your car.
I do, but that's not really reading. But you're right. I don't read so much anymore. But there was a time, all my life growing up, I was a voracious reader. And that's a trick question because if it was a book I wanted to read again, I don't want to read any book again. I don't ever see movies twice. If I've seen it, read it, been there, done it, I'm moving forward. But you said for the first time. I'm going to say The Lord of the Flies.
Ooh. I'm going to find a version of that.
Okay.
And put it in the show notes.
Okay.
So if you want to see what she's talking about. Okay. So, Here's a good one.
Okay.
What was your darkest day? And I'm not looking for the nitty-gritty details, but for an understanding of how you came out of it.
I have two darkest days. The first was the day my grandmother died. My grandmother was very, very influential in my life. I'm an only grandchild. Grew up right next door to my grandparents. And so she was absolutely, and we didn't expect her to die quite, so it wasn't like she had been battling a long illness. She just sort of all of a sudden.
You were rocked.
I was rocked.
That's enough to shift your gravity.
It was awful. And the reason I bring that up is because one of the things that helped me come out of it was dog rescue. I had been doing a little rescue, like I said, as an independent rescuer, and but had slowed down probably for a whole year, hadn't taken in a new dog. This was before sanctuary rescue was really a thing. And we had one dog left. It was a old mama dog that we had her from was 4 years. She did eventually get adopted, but it took 4 years. But I kept the sanctuary rescue email active because we had this one dog, and I thought, and one day, maybe 2 weeks after my grandmother died, in the depths of my grief, I got an email about 6 or 7 newborn puppies whose mother had been shot by the neighbor, and they needed bottle feeding. And I just thought, and as dramatic as that email subject is, we get those every day.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that this was a particularly compelling email. It's that it got to me right in the right moment. And I thought, you know what? I need to nurture little fuzzy things right now to help me. Mm-hmm. And that's actually kind of what jump-started the rescue back into action. And just let me say real quick, my second darkest day was when Goosey died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit about Goosey,
mm-hmm.
and then I also would like to know, what is it about beagles?
I don't know, man. What is it about beagles? I'm not even like a beagle person, but you saw me.
Y'all are all about the beagles.
Well, I think it's literally two reasons. One is Ella Super Beagle. Mm-hmm. That she before Goosey was our mascot. She was born with a deformed spine, and every doctor she ever saw said this dog is not going to have a quality of life. Please, the humane thing is to euthanize her. And I have made that hard decision plenty of times. I really have. But there was something about her that I thought, well, let's just give her a little time. Let's give her a little time. And 10 years later, she had her 10th birthday just a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. 10 years later, she's a very fulfilled dog. There's nothing about her most dogs wish they had this quality of life. So that's the first one, I think, is the Super Beagle, we call her. And then the second one is we are in Liz's place, and Liz's place is named after a dear friend of the rescue, Elizabeth Ratcliffe. And she passed away in April of 2022. But Elizabeth loved Ella Super Beagle, and she had a beagle, Pepper. And so I don't know if you noticed in the front room, but we have a lot of pictures of Elizabeth with her beagle Pepper. And so between Pepper and Ella Super Beagle, we just kind of have this beagle theme going.
But you don't specialize in beagles.
Not at all. We actually have one beagle. We have 55 dogs in rescue right now. Uh-huh. And out of the 55 dogs, only one is a beagle. We don't specialize. We actually, if we had to specialize, I'd say we specialize in potatoes. We like the short, squatty, big-headed, bulldog, pit bullish kind of mix.
Potatoes.
So, yeah. We don't specialize in anything, but I would say we have way more potatoes in rescue than beagles.
Mm-hmm. One of my questions is, what motivates you to do what you do?
I am just very proud of the rescue. That's the answer. I know the answer that people expect to hear, and it's not untrue, but if I'm being really honest, is I'm very proud of the rescue. I'm very proud of the work it does. And so I'm motivated to continue to see it be great.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do that well, then we save a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
So it's a trickle down.
You're challenged by the potential.
Absolutely. And, you know, I feel like we have an incredible team, and I don't ever want to let them down. I want them always to be proud in the organization. And so it's the people, absolutely. It's the people. It's the dogs, absolutely. But that can all be wrapped up in, I just want Sanctuary Rescue to be as great as it can and to only ever bring people pride and happiness and exude, you know, kindness to everything. Mm-hmm. If any little thing happens that might make us not seem like we're doing everything perfectly, it's like, all right, I'm going to spend the next 3 days, 24 hours a day thinking, how can we fix this one tiny little thing? Because this just has to be the best it can be.
And if somebody were to come to you mm-hmm. and say, I want to figure out how to do this mm-hmm. in my area, in my neighborhood, mm-hmm. with my friends, mm-hmm. all they would have to do is just show up on your door, send you one of those emails,
yes.
and say, can I follow you a little while and
right.
see what you do?
A little thing about me is, as much as I love the community and our volunteers and the dogs, I'm also a big fan of Adri. And I tell everybody all the time, a compliment will get you everywhere. So if somebody comes to me and says, I love Sanctuary Rescue, how can I do? And I'll be like, oh, come sit down. Let me tell you how to do, you know, nothing would flatter me more.
So you're not trying to corner the market in wonderful.
I can't. How could I? The market is way too big. The market is way too big. I can't now.
I
would rather have people come compliment the rescue than be greedy and keep the secrets, right?
This place is marvelous.
Thank you.
If
you had seen it before, it was a dump. You have no idea. It was the biggest dump.
We've got bay doors, so I know it had to have been an automotive care. But it's just incredible.
These
you
last
really
two
need
rooms,
to come by at some point.
The last two rooms were a motorcycle shop.
Oh yeah.
And he had sprayed everything black.
Oh.
The ceiling, the doors, the walls, the floor, it was like the Batcave in here.
Yeah.
So, and it was greasy and dirty and lots of spiders.
I can see there's a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. I want to thank you for the time that you have spent with us. Mm-hmm. I want to thank you for your time.
Producer John is something else.
Yeah. He's.
I might steal him for a Sunday here and there.
Well, we are definitely available to, I mean, if you want to do a shoot of one of your special events, mm-hmm. and then we could add it to show notes and links and all of that.
Okay.
We definitely are enthusiastic about what you've done.
I appreciate that, yeah.
And thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Time.
Yeah, this was fun.
This has been fun. I hope that y'all have enjoyed it as much as I have. And I hope that you have a wonderful time on your porch.
That's right.
With your friends. If you don't have any friends, go make some. If you don't have any place can be a porch.
Let me tell you, if you don't have any friends, come come volunteer at Sanctuary Rescue, and you have a built-in family and friendships. Absolutely. You're welcome on our porch anytime.
That's so good.
Yeah.
All right, bye y'all.
We are in a time of turmoil, financial and societal. Lots of big questions are being asked and answered, sort of. One of the things that I know without a doubt is that cuddling with puppies helps. Seriously, when life sucks, hug a puppy. It's a prescription with only a few negative side effects. By this, I mean getting peed on. The foster families from Sanctuary Rescue get help with the puppies. They get puppy food, and if any vets visits are needed, they're covered. There is an unlimited number of puppies. It is the funding that is limited. Donations are taken to cover these needs so that there can be more fostering. Sanctuary Rescue works with animal control agencies all over Central Virginia. Think of all the towns within 2 or 3 hours of Richmond, all having shelters and often depending just on foot traffic for visitors. Sanctuary Rescue helps them get dogs adopted out of their shelters. On the first Saturday of each month at Liz's Place, you can attend the Better Together Shelter Adoption event. It's a massive meetup with puppies from Lunenburg County Animal Control, Nottoway County Animal Control, Halifax Dog Squad, Prince Edward, Powhatan, Amelia, maybe Cumberland County, and Prince George County too. This is monthly, along with puppy yoga and training day. Some interesting things came out of the General Assembly this week and are going to the governor's office. First, the Cruelty to Animals bill provides that any person convicted of felony or misdemeanor cruelty to animals may be prohibited by the court from possession or ownership of animals for a period of up to 5 years. Also, the Animal Cruelty Conviction List bill requires the Superintendent of State Police to keep a public list of persons convicted of felony animal cruelty offenses on the State Police website. The name can be removed after 15 years of no further such offense. Last but not least, there is a veterinary medicine traineeships bill which allows any veterinary medicine licensure applicant enrolled in a traineeship program to engage in the limited practice of veterinary medicine. Now that's awesome news for those trainees wanting to get a head start on their practice. Now this next point is not from the General Assembly, but it might be important to you if you have one of those kids that's excited to learn about animal rescue and what it means to be a future rescuer. Sanctuary Rescue's website has details on their Future Rescuers Kids Camp, and I'll put the link in the show notes for that. I've got a lot of links in the show notes, a lot of good resources. I hope it's helpful to you. I hope these interviews are encouraging. I know I have really enjoyed the adventures, and the panel will be getting back together again soon. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your comments and your feedback. The email address is T.O.M.A, TLH, @outlook.com. And be sure to subscribe so that you get notifications of our next episode. Thanks. Bye.
On the Porch RVA is produced and directed by John Hundley. Your host is Tracy Hundley. Join our community on Facebook and Instagram. Email us at tomatlh@outlook.com. Visit us at www.tomastudiosrva.com. Video of these episodes are on YouTube and Rumble. On the Porch is a 2024 T.O.M.A Studios production.